session, and then once each of them speak, then we'll open it up for questions, and you can address your questions to the panel or to individual members. By way of introduction, on the end is Senator Peter Groff, the Senate President from Denver. He's entering his second full year as President of the Senate. Then right next to me is Senator Josh Penry from Grand Junction, who will be the Republican leader, the minority leader in the state Senate this year. Representative Terrence Carroll, the Speaker designee from Denver, and then on the far end is, I almost said far left, Representative Balmer. But
we're talking to the press. It's okay.
Facing this way, Representative David Balmer, who's the Assistant Minority Leader, who we owe special thanks to all four gentlemen. But when Representative May decided that he was going to resign from the legislature, I think this event became the first casualty of his decision. And poor Representative Balmer, who probably didn't even know we were doing this until 9 o'clock this morning, got the honor of coming to join us. So we appreciate your coming. So why don't we just speak from Senator Groff down, and then once each of them finishes talking, we'll hold questions till the end, and then you can direct your questions to the panel or to any individual member of it. Thanks.
Thank you, and thanks for this opportunity to spend just a few minutes with my favorite part of the Capitol, no, not you guys, but the press, and kind of give an outline of what Senate Democrats are looking at and hoping to work on these next 120 days. Before I do that, let me offer my congratulations to my friend and colleague in the Senate, Josh Penry, who will be the minority leader. I'm really looking forward to working with Josh. We have had, I think, a good relationship in his time in the body. I joked with him that sitting at his far right, I'm only on his far right on education issues. But I am looking forward to working with Josh, and I do want to, in a serious manner, congratulate my dear friend Terrence Carroll on becoming Speaker, and looking forward to working with him in a different capacity than what we've worked for in the past 5 years since he's been in the General Assembly, and to Representative Balmer in your new role, whatever that could be, here in the next couple of days, but looking forward also to working with the House Republicans. Right after the election, the Senate Democrats got together and tried to figure out what our agenda is going to be for that 120 days, starting the first part of January. And one thing kept coming up, and that was the economy, and that was jobs. And every time we talked about education or health care or transportation, it always came back to jobs. And so you will hear us talking a lot about how the state can create jobs, or whether the state can create jobs. And then we are looking to try and create as many jobs as we possibly can by June, and really getting people back to work. We took the extraordinary step with the agreement of the Speaker-elect and with Senator Penry and Representative May at the time about creating a select committee to look at economic growth and job creation. And then the extraordinary step of asking them to work immediately, not waiting until January, not waiting until Representative Carroll and I signed all these papers, and Representative May and Senator Penry tried to figure out who we were going to put on that committee. When I called Senator Penry that Saturday, I said, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. He said, when do you need the names by? When can we get going? And so watching them work has been interesting, and we look forward to what recommendations or potential bills they will bring to us immediately, so that we can begin this process of getting Colorado back to work. So obviously we will take a look at the economic situation. We will get our forecast on Friday. That will certainly dictate what we can and can't do and what we must do moving forward. So obviously we will look at that. We will also look at transportation. The leadership has been meeting and trying to figure out the best way to tackle this issue, and in my opinion, I think we need to look at it maybe in two different ways. I've been crossing my fingers since last May that one of the 126 structurally deficient bridges that we have in this state didn't collapse. And so far we've been fortunate. We've been lucky that that hasn't happened. We need to address that issue immediately. And we have talked about looking at transportation in two different ways. One, trying to figure out how we can cobble together some money right now to deal with those issues. And then talk about transportation and the funding for transportation and all of the issues that we face in that area in a long-term way as soon as the session starts. I met this morning with Senator Gibbs, who will chair the Transportation Committee on our side of the operation, and began to talk to him about ways that maybe he could pull a joint meeting together using one of the free days that they have, that Friday meeting, to begin to look at the recommendations coming from the Blue Ribbon Commission, or the son of the Blue Ribbon Commission that the governor has set up, and really trying to deal with that question. And hopefully they can begin to do that, working with Representative McFadden, I think, who is the chair of House Transportation, and the ranking Republicans on this. We are not looking for, and you will hear me say this time and time again over the next 120 days, looking for democratic solutions. We're trying to find Colorado solutions to Colorado's problems so that Coloradans can move forward together. Democrats aren't just unemployed. Republicans aren't just losing their businesses. These are Coloradans that we're talking about. When I asked Senator Penry to come and address our caucus when we had our leadership elections, he talked about ending this persistent and constant campaigning that we seem to have been involved in. And I appreciate those words and look forward to working with him and his caucus on the pressing issues of the day. Having said that, let me just hit on two things and be glad to answer questions when that time comes. Obviously, I personally am looking forward to January 20th and what that may hold, but I'm also hoping that Congress has their act together by the time they go in, so that when President Obama walks back up those stairs, he can sign a stimulus package, which I think really will help us in terms of the infrastructure needs of this state and in getting people back to work. So I look forward to that. I took the extraordinary measure of placing myself on the Education Committee, and while we have had presidents on committees before, generally they have only served when there have been 18 of their caucus members that they had to distribute between the committees that we have. Very rarely, if ever, have you had a president serving on a committee with more than 18 in his or her caucus. I did that because I think education is the most pressing issue that we have in this country. I think it's a civil rights issue. I think it's a civil rights issue of the 21st century. And I'm going to continue to try and push and lead on that issue in terms of education reform. I've also talked to the President Pro Tem-elect, Betty Boyd, about health care and what we can do in that area. Just left Washington with a lot of other state legislators kind of talking about pressing issues, and health care, of course, continues to come up, and many of us are kind of waiting to see what the Obama administration is able to come up with. And I think the question for the four of us up here is what we'll decide to do on health care. Do we want to try and bridge to something that the Obama administration comes up with, or do we want to kind of cross our fingers and move forward with something and hope that it fits with what the new administration will want to do? I've talked to a number of folks about maybe some creative options that we can do for in healthcare, particularly for small businesses, and trying to ease some of the burdens that they face. So we'll continue to work on those issues. So with that, I will sit down and have Senator Penry come up. But again, from our standpoint, it's about jobs. Jobs, jobs, jobs. I was asked on a panel that I said on Friday in Washington, what are the issues? And I said jobs about every other one. So it is critical, I think, in this state that we've been protected somewhat from the economic downturn, but obviously not totally. We've got to figure out what we can do to put Coloradans back to work and continue to move this economy forward. So thank you very much.